This video is brought to you in association with Funded Today. Funded Today helps you get more pledges for your Kickstarter and Indiegogo campaign with professional video and design. Links are in the video description below. Thank you. Let's get on with the show. Hello, Talk Funders. Today we're talking to Maggie from the non-profit Thinking Huts. Hello, Maggie. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
So let's just begin to look at your GoFundMe for Thinking Huts. And I think the best way to really look at this GoFundMe is to look at your great video that's on the site, the GoFundMe site, and on your GoFundMe page. So I'm just going to put it on the full screen now, Maggie. Can you see it okay? And here we have our lovely world. And this is very much a very interesting and very contemporary issue that you're bringing up. It's very much COVID related, and it's regarding schooling particularly for young people. So, and we'll just start the video rolling now. So there's the first fact there. Over 1.5 billion students are out of school due to the pandemic. That's, what is the world's population? 8.5 billion?
Yeah, I believe somewhere around there.
So it's like a high proportion of the school children haven't had no school before, haven't been at school. And if you think of it as in the West, we think of, oh, we've got the iPads for the, the schools. It's all about iPads and, being able to do remote teaching, whatever. But in less developed countries, they just don't have that infrastructure. They don't have that technical infrastructure. So basically, are you saying, Maggie, that for the last 12 plus months, 1.5 people have not had any, 1.5 billion school kids haven't had any schooling?
It's a combination of people who've had to transition to online learning, and also the students who have already been out of school in the developing areas and who don't have access to those opportunities.
Just schooling in general then?
Yes.
Ah, okay. So it's even a more serious problem than just the not being able to go to school because of COVID. Okay. So here we start in our wonderful world that we all live in. And then we're looking down. What I love about your GoFundMe is the idea that it's a really global issue which you're raising to start with, and you're bringing it into the local context of Madagascar. And I'm just going to bring it back to Madagascar. So this is like bringing it into a country context, and then, as you'll see in a minute, into very much a local context. So can we just really talk about a little bit of background on Madagascar itself? I know very little about it. I mean, there's obviously the Disney films. I know it's great for wildlife, and it's had a few well, not a few, but a major civil unrest. That's really all I know about Madagascar.
Yeah, it is relatively unknown. The first thing is the Disney film, of course, and it is a very biodiverse country. We had considered about 7 countries for this first school, and we had settled upon Madagascar because their first democratic government was instituted in 2018. So it does have a stable political outlook, and the president very much values school construction as one of his policy reforms. So that's important for us, especially to have government alignment, especially in developing countries where things tend to be more unstable. And then also, since they have such huge renewable energy potential, and they have about 3,000 on average sunshine hours, we thought that would be wonderful for solar energy to be able to power the schools in the future too.
Wow, fantastic. And I'll just bring it out, the shot out a little bit so we can really identify where Madagascar is. So it's down really just off the east, sort of southeast coast of Africa. How would we, yeah?
Yes, that's an island nation, not attached to the rest of the continent.
And it's huge. It's huge. That's the other point of fact I know about it. It's just huge. It's like, if you look at the terms of Africa, it's a large country unto itself, Madagascar.
Yeah, a lot of people group it together, but there's multiple countries within the continent.
Okay, and it's like it's really often going off into the Indian Ocean. So we'll just bring it back down into Madagascar now. And then just going back to the actual idea of schooling and, schooling through COVID and actually having access to schooling at all is what we talked about earlier. I was reading on your very detailed website that there's 60%, that's one of 1.3 million primary age kids in Madagascar have no access to school. Is that correct?
Yes, a lot of the students live in rural areas. So there are populated areas such as the capital, but many children and families don't live nearby, and they often have to walk miles to even go to school. And so it's a dangerous walk, and even the existing schools are not very safe. I've been told they're very much dilapidated, and there's such a big need for them. And the current ones are also very overcrowded. So there's just not enough schools and a huge need.
Like, why is it not safe?
They're just very run down. There's not funding available to maintain it or build safer ones. I was told recently that some schools are even built from sewn together like rice bags or even sticks. So it's just not a very safe infrastructure for children to learn in.
Okay, thank you for that. Very hard reality is what, it really is. If you think about it, I mean, here we are comfortable in the Western world, and whenever you're faced with the thought of children not being able to go to have a school building to go to, it really puts our lives in perspective. So thank you for helping the talk funders really understand other parts of the world who are in real need. So what I'm getting at is, here it is here. We are building the world's first 3D printed school in Madagascar. And this is really the driving goal for this GoFundMe by your organization, your not-for-profit Thinking Huts. And look at those, sorry, I'm always amazed by Madagascar trees. They're very unique, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very tall too.
Have you been to Madagascar?
I have not been able to. I was planning to last summer, but then everything sort of hit. So it will be my first time once we build the school, but I hope to stay there for a while just to get to know the communities we're working with.
And so this is really, here we are here. This is really a 3D mock-up of the school in rural Madagascar. And is that the idea, is you want to put this school, the initial pilot project and then the multiple pilot projects, do you really want to put them in the countryside, in a rural environment?
Yes, the vision is to put it in more remote areas because that's where they're needed the most. But for our first school, we're going to be putting it on a university campus just so we can streamline all of the supply chain processes, because it will be more difficult taking it out to areas such as this that don't have connection to the internet and other things like that, which will be easier in the first pilot school.
And what is the name of that university and where is it?
It's called EMIT, and it's in Fianarantsoa, Madagascar, which is in the south central region.
And is that the capital city, or is it?
It's about an 8-hour drive from the capital.
Yeah, it's a big country. It really is. So we're going to really need to talk about 3D printed schools and 3D printing. I mean, this technology really hasn't really hit the West, as far as I'm concerned, the Western world. And here you are going to take it to rural Madagascar. So it's going to be a great interview, and I'm really, really fascinated about how you're going to do this. But let's look at this feature here. It says a hybrid design featuring 3D printed walls, a vertical farm, and solar panels. So it's not just literally a school. There's a lot of other elements that you're building into this school.
Yes, we wanted to address multiple things because malnutrition is another big issue in Madagascar. So by including a vertical garden, people could raise their own vegetables or fruits if they wanted to. And then the solar panels will allow it to be sustainable so that they can continue to use the school and not have to worry about the power. And then we're also hoping in the future we can include internet connectivity. I think 95% of sub-Saharan Africa is off-grid. So if we can put them and connect them to the internet, that could just open the door to more opportunities too.
95% of sub-Saharan Africa, that's a lot of people as well. My goodness. And do you collect rainwater? How does it work?
Yes, we're planning to put the catchment system on the roof. Our first school, and probably schools in the future too, will have corrugated tin, which is usually used to catch the water.
Okay, cool. And the solar panels, what's it? Is it going to be? So I thought for generating electricity, it's photovoltaic cells, but this is solar panels. So what's the solar panels going to be used for?
Just to power the school.
Oh, to power the school, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I understand. Okay, thank you. Superb. And then the other feature is, well, it's sort of the ultimate mobile form of construction, because it's 3D printed, you can actually just take the 3D printing equipment anywhere and then start manufacturing these schools. Is that correct?
Yes, that is the plan. The biggest consideration is the 3D printer, so we will need to transport that to any location.
And then does it need, pardon my total ignorance, it'll need some sort of generator to power the 3D printer?
Yes, we'll need generators in the rural areas. So we'll probably have backups of that because you never know, things could go wrong. So you got to plan for that.
And then so in one sense, you're bringing like a school starter pack, like if we can like maybe imagine a cargo container just to help us with this. You're going to have like the 3D printer machine. You're going to have the material that is fed into the 3D printing machine. And you're also going to need a generator to power this, and also fuel to power all this together. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
And solar panels and everything else. And then the Thinking Hut team sitting in the front seat of the lorry driving this to the new destination in the new school. Okay, fantastic. And I mean, one thing I think I read about it was, in this shot here, you can actually see 4 different buildings are connected together. Is that correct?
Yes, that was something that was important to me to incorporate. My initial vision was a beehive configuration. So the modular design of it allows you to attach more, because usually when you bring in a school, like people will gravitate towards it. So the population increases. So to accommodate the growth of the students, it's necessary to be able to build upon it.
And then this gives us all an idea, is, as you can see, the school is totally in situ within a village in rural Madagascar, which is French speaking, I believe.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And here's the interior shot. Fantastic. Great. That's your end goal, isn't it? I'm sure you just like, that's the dream. That's what you want, isn't it? Kids, yes, in the school learning. And again, this is the multi-pod configurations allowing for school expansion, which is really great. It's really flexible approach to construction. And you can maybe build one unit, and then as probably confidence grows and people want to bring their kids to school, and you begin to separate it into different years, you can add on the second module, a third module, and so on. Is that the idea?
Yes, exactly. We're hoping that in the future we can use it for like a whole K-12 sort of campus, that people could choose which buildings they want for which grades.
Fantastic. And just before we go into 3D printing, and I suppose the other interesting thing about is like, how will these be, and the power will come from the solar panels, and then maybe you'll get we can ask Elon Musk, we'll tag Elon Musk to the video to say, these new satellites that he's putting up into space for the internet access, can he sponsor these schools in Madagascar as a test for the internet access?
Incredible. Like, someone had talked to me about the Starlink thing that he started. I think that would be so cool, because that's exactly what is needed here for him, targeting remote internet connectivity. So that would be really cool.
Okay, well, let's write a letter to Elon. And the other thing that I felt we could write to Elon about is this Tesla batteries, because it's like you're going to, it's to store the power that you're receiving from these solar panels. So that would be fantastic. There you go. Oh, no, even my Google Home's getting excited. It's starting to talk to me here. So now let's go on to the 3D printing. Okay, so 3D printing decreases construction time from months to days. Now, I have never seen 3D printing or experienced it. So can you really just talk us through the talk funding audience, how it works, what's it all about?
Of course. So I guess I'll begin by saying it is not plastic. That's usually what people think it is. We'll be using a modified concrete mixture. And so how 3D printing works is it extrudes concrete from this nozzle here, and then it'll build the wall from the ground up. So it's a layer by layer process, and then the walls are hollow. So it's a honeycomb process. So it's also great because that decreases the construction waste that is produced. And then by using this layering process, it's just a lot faster as what's on the screen. Usually, like schools will take months or years to build, but with 3D printing, it's so quick that you can do it in a matter of days. And we're hoping to be able to get it down to 2 or 3 days. We can build a school.
And does it print, like this is showing you that it's gliding along? Is it going to print a whole wall, a whole section of a wall, or just a brick, and then you lift the bricks from the printer area? How does that work? Pardon my total ignorance.
No worries. It's definitely understandable. With the traditional schooling, that's usually the bricks. So of course that makes sense. But for 3D printing, it'll be a whole section of a wall. So it'll just keep going and then building upon it itself. So no bricks will be involved for this.
And really, you build a foundation. You dig out a foundation. Do these schools need foundations, or will it just sit on the land, the top of the land?
Depends on the soil compaction. So if the soil is not super good, we'll need to lay a layer down and have that slab to build upon. But if it's good to go, we could build just on top of the ground.
Okay. And we'll just play the video on a little bit further, Maggie.
Sounds good.
Reduces our carbon footprint, and it reduces your carbon footprint because you're not transporting in all the material, all the bricks, etc., that a normal school would have needed.
Yes, that's part of it. But the biggest thing is also that since we're using less concrete, we're producing less waste. So that also decreases the output there. And then also we're hoping to decrease our carbon footprint with the material mixtures we use. With modified concrete, it should decrease the amount of CO2 emitted. And as the materials develop, we're hoping to transition to more locally sourced materials such as soil, or even ash is being experimented with in some companies.
Fantastic. Wow. That's all I can say. It's really good. It is fascinating. Now, here we go. Here's getting up into the once the machine has been doing its business, going around building these walls. Together we can go. I love that, the global opportunity gap. That's so good. Like, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the global opportunity gap. Could you say something more about that, please?
Of course. I think that a lot of people aren't able to achieve their dreams in life because of not having access to education. I always tie it back to being adopted and just knowing that my life could have been a lot different. I come from the background of a lot of students I hope to meet and serve in the future, coming from a rural area. And I think that if people are given access to the opportunities, then they can achieve a lot more in life.
And that sort of leads us on neatly just to sort of the next part of the main interview is really just a little bit a backstory regarding about the thinking hut and the origins of this whole idea. Just off camera, you were talking about you had a dream or vision about 6 years ago.
Yes, I was a sophomore in high school at that time.
And what was your big revelation 6 years ago?
Yes, I was in my dad's office one day talking about the future of technology. I'd always been very passionate about education access. And so we were talking about 3D printing, and I just asked him, what if we 3D printed these schools? And from there, I just was really fascinated about it and kept doing research and partnership development over these past 6 years. And then eventually we got here.
Fantastic. And you're set up as a I call it a not-for-profit, a non-profit in the States, in Colorado. Is that correct?
Yes, we have our 501c3 status. So everything is certified for nonprofit status.
And in the deep dive interview, we'll really look at the absolutely awesome team that you have assembled for the to really push this ahead, the really top caliber people. So let's just look at the campaign itself. The campaign is currently on GoFundMe, and it's been running for how long now?
I created it in the summertime, but then I sort of disabled it because of everything that was going on, especially in America. There's just so many events going on that I didn't think it was the best time to be doing it. So now we're relaunching it this year with the PR and everything.
Yeah, and so really, and well, thank you very much for giving me the shout out and giving me the opportunity to support this wonderful project, Maggie. And as we can see here, folks, it's on GoFundMe. And if you please come along and donate. And in the next interview, we're going to do a deep dive, and we're also going to do a backstory on this fantastic project. So thank you very much for doing this main interview today with us, Maggie. So Maggie and the Thinking Huts is on GoFundMe, and so please donate. Thank you so much, Maggie.
Thank you.